Go live with my hair sticking up. That wasn't even a blooper. That was live.
Yeah, we are live with your hair sticking up. Welcome everybody. It is Poirier and Elise Rothman, and we're back with the Blue Talks Flip Your Script event. So welcome back, Elise.
Don't mind me, guys. Thank you. Don't mind me. How do I look, guys? Just leave it in the comments.
I think it looks fantastic. So, so how's everything since yesterday?
Great. Things are going really well. It's really interesting because everybody kind of left here today. So it's interesting when the space, we don't have any of our treat people or guests here. So it's kind of an interesting vibe that happens. And then today, everybody comes in. So we have a whole new group of amazing people to come in. And it's a little overcast and misty and rainy here in Florida. So it's kind of like I got my double shirt on and things are good. I'm excited about today. It's the perfect day to be inside and just kind of chat with people all over the country and the world.
Absolutely. We're getting, not that it matters to anybody else here, but we're getting hit with a rain stretch for about 8 days, it looks like, and we never get that much rain. So come on, rain, I guess, for the farmers.
Yes, exactly. And for the flowers and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we're in a very farm-driven rural place, so we need the farm. The farmers need the rain, and some summers they don't get it at all. So bring on the rain. That's my
bring on the rain. I like it. I lived in Bergen, Norway for 8 years, and it rained 10 months out of the year. So I know what it's like to have a stretch.
Totally get it. Well, Florida gets its fair share of rain as well, depending on which part of Florida you're in.
I love Florida rain because in the summer, it's this huge downpour for a half hour in the afternoon. It cools things off, and then the sky opens up, it's blue sky, and it's beautiful again. So we get enough rain, but it's just like me, short attention span. If I'm feeling funky, it doesn't last long, certain 100%. Things I don't hang out in very long. So it's nice to get the rain, and then it gives you a break. I think rain is like nature's way of saying, okay, hunker in, take a breath, step back, or put on some really good rain gear and walk through the woods.
100%. And I just wanted to acknowledge Richelle just jumped on and said, hi, such an amazing week. And LinkedIn user said, hello, both.
So, hi, LinkedIn user.
That's that's the one thing I wish. I LinkedIn, I don't think you almost never see the name of who it is, but we carry on. So awesome stuff. So we're back again, of course, with the latest day within this week, Blue Talks Flip Your Script event.
That would be day 4, the latest day, day 4.
Yeah, day 4, where we have so many amazing speakers that have been joining us. I would say almost every conversation has been different, and I would expect it'll probably be the same thing today. So I'm excited to bring on the first guest, and I'll just say, which I've been trying to remember to say at the first of every day, is sharing is caring. We would love it if you shared this. If you're watching right now, you never know who could use the information or knowledge you're going to hear today. Also, that's how I decided about the giveaways, is when you comment and share. And then I'll also say, if you want to know more about Blue Talks in general, bluetalks.com, or reach out to me. That's all.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about how you can flip your script, you can reach out to me at eliserothman.com, or it's Flip Your Script with Elise, really, on all social media.
Awesome stuff. So let's get to work and bring on it's not really work, but bring on our first guest, Richelle Lecourt. So excited to have you here today.
Hello.
Hello. Where we usually jump into this, I don't know if you've been catching us the last couple of days, but where we usually jump in is we usually get the guests themselves to tell us a little bit about themselves, their backstory, their journey, because we're going to dive in deeper anyway. But I always feel, and thus far, almost 200 interviews, it's proven to be true. It's a little more exciting when it's the person telling their story versus us reading a bio off a screen or a piece of paper and feeling like we're messing up something because we said one word wrong. So
I think we actually flipped the script on that on our first Flip Your Script virtual event. I was in charge of bios, and I'm thinking it's just way better for y'all to explain who you are and tell us your version. Yeah. So I love it.
And not to interject, I was just going to say, I do that. I've been doing that in my podcast for about 4 years now.
Oh, well, there you go.
And people always ask me about editing and stuff like that. And I say, no, I don't. I figured out an efficient way to get rid of all the editing stuff. I just welcome the guest on and say, tell us about yourselves. And then I don't have to add a bio in later or anything. I'm all about ease. So it works.
Easy, yeah, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Absolutely. So
that's one of my 9-year-old clients created his own mind seed, because I have my clients create these like mind seeds and intentions. I said, how would you like your life to be? And he said, I like when my life is easy peasy lemon squeezy. So there you go. From the mouth of a 9-year-old.
Love it. So without further ado, Richelle, let's let you jump in. Tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, and then we can dive in a little bit deeper.
Well, first of all, Corey and Elise, thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest on the show today. I'm so honored to be here. I am a life and empowerment coach. I live here near Toronto, Ontario. This morning we had a blessing of snow. It's been wonderful.
Wow.
The usual April and March weather shift. I recently became a life coach 2 years ago. It has been a wonderful journey exploring and learning about myself. What put me onto this journey was I was really stuck. I was not familiar with awareness. I was not really prepared for any personal development work. I didn't really think it was necessary. I thought, I'm fine, I'm good. I don't need anything. And I took a yoga teacher training in 2016 after my mom passed in 2015, and it changed my life. It introduced me to what awareness was. It introduced me to where my weaknesses were, for lack of better terms. And it helped to rekindle a part of myself that I felt was long lost. It helped me to reconnect with my inner child, the part of me that loves to play and explore and have fun. And yeah, so I am learning, turning, burning, and learning, and I'm really excited to be here. Short and sweet.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I love that that is a common theme we've been hearing about this week, is the inner child and inner child work. We've been hearing about people's inner childs all week. Here's a question for you, because I was watching a Blue Talk, actually, with Kendra Kincaid from Alberta in Canada. And Kendra was saying she named her inner child, her and her boyfriend. I can say it here, considering what Elise said this week with the S word each day. She calls her name for her inner child is the Pillsbury Dough Bitch. That's what she calls it.
Hey, wait a second. Do you know what bitch means?
Well, I know what it means in the dictionary.
Well, it's babe in total control of herself.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that one yet.
Babe. Elliot calls me bitch all the time. Hey, bitch. Babe in total. And you know what? A dude can be a bitch too. It's babe in total control of himself.
Oh, wow. So I haven't heard that. And what I will say, though, in the context of what she's meaning it, she's obviously meaning it as it's the angry little woman inside her that's telling her you can't do this, you can't do that. And she asked her husband what his is called, and he said rant. So it's because it rants in his head all the time. Don't do this, don't do that. So that was the tone for to ask you, Richelle. Have you named yours? Like, do you have a name for your inner child?
Oh my gosh, I have more than one inner child.
Okay.
So do I. Different levels, right? We have the 3-year-old, the 8-year-old, the 17-year-old, the 19-year-old who was in charge of my relationships for way too long. she was in charge of choosing my relationships, and when I realized my 19-year-old was picking, I was like, "Girl,
mm-hmm. I'm very plain Jane with my naming. I just categorize them as the age that they are. I do have a few names, like the inner critic or the inner judge, or my husband's personal favorite, the little inner Hitler. That is his.
Wait, the what?
The inner Hitler, the little Hitler.
Mm.
I come from a long line of military family. My grandfather served in the Nazi regime. He was actually Hitler's driver. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So
wow, that's a tall order.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff that was passed down through that. And
I bet.
Yeah, so
a lot of different names then. And so let's go back, or let's continue that theme of the inner child. what did you said you discovered your inner child and finally started working with, well, at least maybe one of the inner childs or maybe all of them. And so what did that look like? Like, what was the, what direction did you take? What came up for you, if you don't mind going there? And what did that look like in terms of trying to coexist?
Okay, really interesting question. Thank you for asking. So the journey to discovering my inner child has been a very long one. Like I mentioned, I took my yoga teacher training in 2016, and that's where things really started to develop for me. The whole premise and foundation of the yoga teacher training was to develop our awareness. And by developing your ability to observe, you develop your ability to become aware. So observation equals awareness. Not always the case, but most often the case. So by observing how I was responding and reacting to my environment allowed me to go inward and say, okay, I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm feeling angry right now. Like, why am I feeling angry? This person just asked me a question. Why am I feeling upset about this? And by diverting that reflection inward, I was able to start to go, oh, wow, this reminds me of a time when I was a kid and I wasn't listened to. This reminds me of a time when I was a teenager and I was, rejected or abandoned or cast out or whatever the memory was. And by allowing myself to be curious and approach everything from a place of curiosity rather than a place of anger or resentment or hatred or self-loathing or self-judgment or self-criticism, all of the things that sort of are encapsulated in unworthiness, I was able to be a little more gentle and a little more genuine in my process and the inner excavation of my inner child. When I grew up, I had a really interesting childhood. It was not a very pleasant childhood, as much as I would love to say it was. I experienced sexual abuse when I was 3 years old, and it continued for a couple of years. It was something that I had suppressed and just like stuffed away. It was something that I didn't want to acknowledge. I didn't want to observe it. I didn't want to name it. And it showed up in all of my relationships. I had no idea that this part of me, this innocence that had been ripped away from me at such a tender age, I had no idea that it was playing out in my relationships and in my ability to communicate and create friendships and loving relationships, not just with other people, but with myself. When that piece of you is taken away at a young age, it can be very devastating. The most impressionable years of a child's life are from conception until the age of 7. So when, deep trauma occurs in that time period, it can be extremely detrimental to the overall well-being and the functionality of a person. It's usually and often what causes split personality in a person, because that part of us becomes fragmented. So being subjected to such things at such a young age was really something that I never wanted to deal with. I was like, no, I'm fine, which is the typical I'm not fine answer. And doing the discovery around that and doing the digging around that has been life-changing, because now that I recognize how this has played out in my life, I know what I need to do to support that part of myself, to nurture that part of myself. And since she has since been integrated, as of a couple of years ago, she's been completely integrated. But I recognize when other inner child pieces are popping up, I'm like, oh, you, okay, so why are you here? What do you need? What can I do? And, then you go through the process. And I definitely have a lot of little processes that I put myself through. And sometimes the best process to put it through is just to let it express, because if you're not able to tap in and allow it to verbalize what it's feeling or experiencing, which is really yourself feeling and experiencing these things, again, it shuts it down and it reinforces that it's not okay to express. It's not okay to be heard or to be seen or to be felt. And by allowing yourself to use your voice, which is the most powerful frequency on the earth, you allow yourself to liberate yourself from all of these pieces, these stuck emotions, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Couple of things.
Yeah, I'll let you go
first, that recognizing its conception to 7. I'm hyper aware because recognize it's conception to 7. People say 0 to 7. No, it's when the
It's
there was
conception.
a whole lot going on when, the seed and whatever came together. So it's from conception, and then also fragmented. I think that that's a really good definition of energy that we get.
Mm-hmm.
We have moments when we have this fragmented energy, and it's still energy, and it's still ours. It's just misaligned. And I think the more misaligned it is, we get these medical diagnoses as bipolar. Well, you take a breath in and you take a breath out. We're all bipolar. It's the degree of misalignment and what takes us there that causes that fragmented energy. So that's really powerful. I was like, whoa, did she just say fragmented? I think in all of the interviews that we've had, Corey, that's the first time conception to 7 has come up, and also using the term and recognizing that energy gets fragmented. It gets stuck, it gets built into plaque, but it's still our energy. It's still that space. So really powerful. And I have to say, you have a very lucky inner child.
Oh, thank you. She feels pretty lucky.
She's very lucky to have you as her guide.
Well, and I want to dive more into what you do as well with helping people and the work that you do. But I'll add in something just to kind of validate, at least from my perspective, that, as you said, that children in the womb are experiencing these things as well. And I've shared this before. Here is that my with the birth of both of our children, but specifically the older one, my girlfriend listened to meditation and yoga when he was in the belly. And she also listened to this artist named Christine Campbell, who's a regional artist that we're a big fan of. And so she listened to him over and over again. And what's so intriguing is he would make movements and stuff to kind of acknowledge, hey, I'm hearing this. But you could make the argument just because of sound, but when he came out, he basically was already smitten with her music. Like, he would dance and act differently for her music than anybody else's. We took him to her live show. He was different than any other music. And so the odds of that being a coincidence seems very small to me. I just want to
I agree. There's a lot of studies that talk about the necessity of women when they are in conception, from conception all the way to birth, to expose themselves to beautiful music, beautiful things, the more beauty. And as you can see, my little plant is right here.
I know. She's so pretty.
The more beauty you can introduce into your space, into your energy, the more it integrates into your body and into your being, creating that homeostasis for the baby. It also, there's some really interesting studies. I can't remember the guy's name. Imamoto is his last name. He was a Japanese scientist. And
with the water?
Yes.
Yeah.
He would study the water, and if the water was exposed to classical music, it would create the most beautiful crystalline forms or snowflakes, just because it was exposed to the music. Whereas if it was exposed to not beautiful music, it was, sort of deformed and not fully formed, and it wasn't as beautiful or as aesthetic, which I think is really interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a question for you. So you said that this journey for you started when you decided to do your yoga teacher training. Mm-hmm. I know I went on the same journey, never taught a yoga class, but it was a personal journey for me. Like, I just felt like, those 8 limbs, I wanted to explore some more. What inspired you from where you were, I'm good, to say, oh, I think I'll take a yoga teacher training course? Because that's kind of like a commitment.
Yeah, that's a great question, Elise. Thank you. The inspiration was actually a yoga teacher who I had met at the gym that I had worked at. And she just seemed to be going through this incredible transformation. And I was like, I don't know what she's doing, but I want in. And I asked her, I said, what are you doing? Like, what's your secret? Like, why are you so happy all of the time? And she said, I decided that I wanted to do this for myself. This was to my benefit to do this. And I took a yoga teacher training. And she says, I can't tell you what happened during that training because it's different for everyone. She said, but the inner transformational journey that I went on was indescribable. She said, I recommend everyone take a yoga teacher training. And since losing my mom, I was really in a dark place. I had, Found out the guy that I was dating was married and all of this stuff, and I was not his only girlfriend. And I was like, okay, how much of a mess am I really in right now? Like, I need to do a hard reassessment on my life. And I moved back to, I'm originally from BC, but I moved back to Saskatchewan to work for a company that offered me a job. And I was like, okay, you know, I don't want to stay here. I don't want to live in Saskatchewan. There's nothing going on here. Like, there's really nothing happening here. I made some great friends. And then one day I was just like, you know what? Screw it. To heck with it. I'm not staying here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. So I moved out to BC, decided to move to Kamloops. I was like, okay, I'm going to take a week or two off and just relax, get myself acquainted with the area. No. 2 days later, I found myself landing a job interview. And when I arrived for the job interview, there was actually a poster for a yoga teacher training that was starting in 2 weeks. And I was like,
oh, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, I was like, if this is not a sign, I don't know what is. So I immediately called and I said, please tell me you have space. I don't care how I have to pay for this. I'll put it on my credit card. I don't care. I need to be a part of this training. He said, yeah, we have a couple of spots left. He signed me up. I went and I just felt like I finally landed in a space where I could actually, you know, find my way back into my body. Because, you know, obviously having experienced trauma as a child, I completely disassociated from my body. I was not able to be in my body. And that was a really big part of the yoga teacher training, was developing my observation and my ability to be self-aware so I could put myself back in my body instead of, when things happen, just pulling myself out and being like, nope, not going there. Nope, don't want to do this.
Wow. So how have you transformed that now, that this experience, into helping others kind of get to know and meet their inner versions of self?
Oh my gosh, I love this question.
Corey, that I just took that one from you.
All good. Take it away.
Okay, I love this question. This allows spaciousness because I have integrated so much of my own past, so much of my own trauma and pain and suffering. It gives me the capacity to understand at a much deeper level what someone else may or may not be experiencing. I never assume that I know what the level or depth of which what someone else is experiencing, but I do allow myself to ask them questions and, you know, approach from a place of curiosity and say, you know, it sounds like this is what's going on. Can you dig a little deeper? Like, what is underneath that? What are you experiencing underneath that? One of the foundational tools of what I do in my work is assisting other people to develop their ability to observe. Because, as I mentioned, by developing your ability to observe, you develop your awareness. And the further you develop your ability to observe, and observe from a place of objectivity rather than involvement, you can pull yourself back, observe what's going on. You sort of just watch it like it's a movie going by. And then you go, okay, interesting. This happened, and now I feel like this. Correlation doesn't always equal causation. However, when it comes to integrating trauma or past pains and suffering, it more often than not sort of leads to a head. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And what a gentle way of, you know, kind of approaching it. I'm like, step number one for recognize, release, and restore is eyes on your own paper. That's my approach. Get your eyes on your own paper right now, because if you don't have your eyes on your own paper, how are you going to recognize how you feel in relationship to the world? So I love your approach to this and your perspective. You're like, can we dig a little deeper? I'm like, get your eyes on your own paper right now. Yeah. So same concept, very different approach.
Yes, I do appreciate the approach as well. I have in the past been very, you know, and there's a time and a place for me to bring out the little inner Hitler and be like, no, you need to follow along here. And as you said,
you already learned it in school. Eyes on your own paper. That was like the best thing we learned at school. And we didn't know what that meant at the time. But if you have your eyes on everyone else's paper, focusing on everything else and extracting yourself, I call it procrastinating on finding out what the root cause is. Oh. What happened?
I don't know. You froze a little bit.
Am I back?
Somewhat. You're coming back, I think. Your mouth is not matching your words yet, but you'll be back.
No, can you hear me now?
The dubbing is off. It's like one of those old school movies.
Yeah, it's not now, but you were a second ago. You're good now.
We are good now. Okay.
Yes. I just wanted to ask you as well. I was on your website and saw in terms of what work you do and the different services, and one of them I saw was meditation as medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about meditation a few times this week. And I'd love to talk to you about that as well, because first of all, I'd love to hear what meditation means to you. And I want to set that up a little bit. Is I've been working on this larger project that I still have been shy about sharing too much about it. But we talked to a lot of thought leaders around meditation. Almost all of them practice it. And, you know, these are the big names you would think, like Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Bob Proctor, Lisa Nichols. But what's interesting is almost all of them practice it differently. And the common theme is it's not what we think. Meaning, we always think of meditation as, and we had Karen on earlier this week saying she thought, I'm going to go up to the top of a mountain and meditate, and that's how I'm going to get enlightenment. And what I've discovered is most of them practice it in different ways. Like one says, when I do handiwork, that's my meditation. Another one said, when I work, JJ Virgin said, when I work out, that's my meditation. Mm-hmm. And so it was so far, like there was no common, almost, this is how everybody has to meditate. David G., who's the meditation guru who created the 21-day challenge that Oprah and Deepak do, he said meditation basically is just sitting in stillness however you do that. Could be laying down. Like it doesn't even have to be sitting up. And so my question, I want to set the tone for that for other people to understand that meditation doesn't have to be the way we're thinking of it for the sake of the conversation. But having said all that, what is meditation to you and why is it important to you?
Meditation to me is the art of practicing stillness within. Doesn't matter what I'm doing outside, it's what's going on inside. So if I'm creating something with my hands, like I really love woodworking, I love painting, I love creating art, that is a form of meditation for me. Also sitting in stillness and listening, you know, to chanting or just having complete, utter silence is also considered meditation to me. The purpose and objective of the meditation for me is to really solidify and ground myself in stillness, in my awareness of what is going on, what is my intention for the day, what do I need to learn from today, and what are my lessons, what am I here to learn. Why is it important? It's important. It's important because if you can't be still with yourself, how can you be still with anything else? You won't be able to, you know, be still with your emotions or be still with any trauma or events that may come up. You know, you might get that phone call saying, hey, so-and-so was in an accident, and suddenly you're completely out of your body. You're driving down the road and you get in an accident because you're not able to be still within yourself. So it's not an avoidant technique for the emotions or the situations that may arise, but it does help you feel more prepared and more centered when you do receive those calls.
Now, how about when we talk about sitting in stillness, what is your take on guided meditation versus simply sitting on your own with your own thoughts? Like, do you have a preference, and do you feel one works better than the other, or do you think it's just different strokes, different folks, as they say?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I feel like it's all a personal preference, and you know, much like the seasons change, sometimes your desire to meditate changes. Sometimes I like to meditate outside under a tree. Sometimes I need something to guide me. If my brain is going all over the place, I need something to sort of reel me back in and give me something to focus on. There are really simple breathing techniques that also can assist you, you know, with getting yourself into a state of meditation. I think it's all a personal preference. You have to find what works for you, and what works today may not work tomorrow, and just being okay with that it's changing and that it's evolving for yourself.
So dig it. How about the other thing I was looking at?
Did you just say dig it?
Yeah. That's an okay word.
That's because you're hip.
No, I'm not hip at all. But
we talked about it yesterday. You're like, I'm so outdated. I even use the word hip, and now you're digging it. I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig that you're digging it.
Yeah, it's. I don't use that word. I don't look at that word as a generational word or a timeline word. I just dig. I think digging things is cool. So
I was kidding, Corey.
I know
wit. That's the wit. That's the wit.
I know, totally. Richelle, the other thing I want to ask you about couples, like, so when you work with couples and couples coaching, I mean, obviously you do, I think, individual coaching and couples. So I guess for those that haven't maybe had coaching as a couple or maybe coaching at all, what is the difference? Like, what do the two look like as far as how are they different? And are both members of the couple always there, or do you coach them separately, or just what does that look like?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So yes, traditionally coaching is one-on-one, but I do offer relationship coaching. Relationship coaching differs from one-to-one coaching because there's not one person to hold space for. There are now two people to hold space for. And not just two people, to families, to different experiences, to childhoods. There are many moving parts, and coming together in one place can often be very, very intense for some people, and it can also be very uncomfortable. Working with couples it's very humbling to witness, the interactions and the engagement. And it's also, to me, it's very sacred, that someone would invite you into their relationship to be like, hey, we need someone to look at what's going on and tell us, like, I think he said this, and no, she said this. And it's like, actually, you both said this. Like, and it's finding that common goal, that common ground, and helping them to recognize, why did you get into a relationship with this person? What are you really fighting about? What are you really arguing about? What is really the point of contention? And oftentimes it's a lack of intimacy. That's usually the most common thing in a relationship, is not being heard, not being seen, and not being able to be intimate with one another. Work schedules, kids, all of those types of things can have an influence. Foundationally, working with one-on-one and with couples, it's very, very much goal-oriented. So we set up goals for what each other is working towards, and then we start taking those action steps after we create an action plan. And it's the same thing with couples. Corey, you mentioned you have a girlfriend. Your goals might be a little bit different than your girlfriend's goal, but knowing if there's a common goal, or at least knowing what each other's goals are so you can support one another in working towards those goals, is really, really empowering for each party in the couple.
And also, I heard you were talking about yourself, past relationships and challenges with them. And one of the things I think is a misnomer for people is they feel like you have to have it all perfect if you're going to keep somebody else. And in business, there might be an argument for maybe you should have to have achieved something to coach somebody else. But when it comes to relationships, I don't know why this popped in my head, but John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, I believe it's twice he's been divorced. And people, like, he said this one time in an interview to me that, I said, well, John, I want to be the devil's advocate. I'm sure people have said to you, well, how can you coach us about marriage if you've had multiple marriages? And he said, who better to teach you? I've learned all the things not to do right.
Yeah.
Way to flip your script, John.
Yes.
But it's true, right? He said, I've learned the mistakes. If I haven't learned the mistakes, why would you want me coaching you? And it's weird. What popped into my head is how my girlfriend, who, again, she's open about the fact that she's been sober 6 years, but she always talks about, like, counselors and that. She could never relate to a counselor who was book smart, but had never had an addiction. Mm-hmm. Like, the counselor was coming to her like, well, this is almost like, without saying the words, this is what the book says. But she's like, I want somebody, she said, if I struggled and been this down this low, and let's say alcohol was my drug of choice, she said, I want to know that person knows what I'm going through personally, whether that's right or wrong. And so on the relationship side, I didn't give you a chance to answer that, but do you agree with that it's okay if the person coaching the couple is also still struggles now with the relationship or struggled in the past?
Yes, I do believe that your medicine that you are receiving, whatever it is that you're learning, is also the medicine that you can share with other people. And I definitely chalk up a lot of my experiences and my learnings and my lessons to where I am now. If I hadn't had those experiences and I hadn't gone on the inner healing journey and mastered all of this stuff, I would not have met my husband, and I would not be married today. And, we have a really great relationship. We have a great foundational understanding of one another. And my husband, I feel like he's kind of an anomaly, because he's
I got one too. There must be more than one anomaly out there.
Yeah.
And you're an anomaly too, Corey.
Well, thank you.
Yes, you are.
And so now with your husband, in what way is he?
Yeah, I'm curious.
So the reason why I feel like my husband is an anomaly is because he had a lot of experience with women who had come from traumatic childhoods and traumatic backgrounds. So he understood, the depths and the darkness to which a person may or may not have been exposed. He himself comes from a very loving home. Like, it's very different for me to observe his family interactions, because my family interactions were nothing like that. Like, his parents are kind, they're generous, they're loving, they're so welcoming. Like, every time I phone his
And now
mom,
they're your family too.
yeah, now they're mine, and I get to share in that, and I get to know what that experience is like. And
Look what you manifested.
yeah, it's teaching me. It's teaching me, what it can be like when we decide to have a family, what that can look like for me. And I do agree, Corey. I feel like there's a time and a place for books and for the smarts that people get from reading a text, but applied experience, always hands down for me is a win.
Fist pump, girl. I'm all about the personal experience, because how else are we going to really form our own perspective? I mean, I think books are great, Corey, and I know that, everybody has a story to share, but it's their story from their perspective. And we're reading somebody's version of their perspective, which is great if it's their perspective. However, it's like so exciting to like go out and have all these personal perspective experiences.
Well, personally, I love books, but I never teach from a book. I always take an experience I had or something I learned, and then I might reference something I read in a book and talk about my take on it. But I would never go, well, I read the book on Think and Grow Rich, so I'm going to teach you now Think and Grow Rich.
Absolutely. And we're talking about books, and look at your background today. It's like all books.
Yeah, today is the book day. So,
Yeah,
but I want to clarify that too on the book side. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think there's a place for it. And I'm a huge fan of books, but I think that book smarts can't replace street smarts. I think they both have their place. Yes. And there's lots of people that, like my grandfather, had a grade 3 education, never read a full book in his life, and yet he built a fiberglass space shuttle replica to scale.
How awesome is that? Wow. That's an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's in Little Prince Edward Island, and it was one of 6 shuttles of that size done like that in the entire world. And they had an architect, and with the blueprints, he was struggling with it. And my grandfather was given blueprints of the shuttle was drawn, like a little piece of the shuttle was drawn on a cigarette pack. And Bart Bourne, the guy who commissioned the shuttle, said, "Here you go, Eddie. There's your blueprints. Build this for me."
So is it in a museum or something now, or where is it?
So it was. It's basically a thing called the Great Island Adventure Park, and it was open for 18 years. It still stands now, the shuttle, but the place is closed. And basically what it is it's this area here called Cavendish and PEI, and it was like an amusement type area. And so this guy set up this, basically he called it a Space and Science Center. And the biggest core part of the Space and Science Center is you could go into the shuttle and learn what it was like to live like an astronaut, basically.
Oh, that sounds so awesome.
You know why he went out of business? Or not out of business, but why he decided to close it down? He was losing business because the schools were taking the kids on past his thing to go to the water slides.
Oh.
They said, let's go just take them there because that seems like more popular. And yet he was like wanting to give them an educational experience. And they were just, the schools themselves were just driving.
How cool would it be to turn that into a water slide? So you have to go through it. And then the way that you get out is a water slide.
I'm with Elise.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, they have to fix it back. Like, it still stands, but of course it's getting older, so pieces are falling off. So Bart let us jump in there and grab some pieces. So we're doing a shadow box, a memory of my grandfather with the pieces of the shuttle and stuff. But that was for another day. But the point was that he did all that without any book smarts. So Richelle, as we start to wind down, Elise, I think, probably has one main question she wants to ask you. If you've been listening in, my main question is usually the time machine question. I've been obsessed with this question for years. So my time machine question is, if you could jump into a time machine, go back and visit a younger Richelle, give her a piece of life advice based on what you've learned in the years since, what do you think you might tell
her? That's an excellent question. I would tell her to be patient and enjoy her childhood. I think we're all guilty as kids. We want to grow up, and then we grow up and we miss things like naps, and we wish that we could nap again. Appreciating the really, really small things, and just be patient and let yourself grow and take your time.
Elise, have you started to notice the common themes that I've got to discover by asking this question so often? People never say, here's the way to earn more money. Here's the way to work harder. Like, it's always the common themes of, most people would say, enjoy the journey more. Relax a little bit. Don't beat yourself up. Yes, you're going to have to go through these hoops that you wanted to get rid of years ago. What you're saying now won't, what you're worried about now won't matter in a year. It's always a similar
Okay,
theme.
so guess what? We don't even have to tell that to our younger self. We now just tell the now self that.
That's the whole point. My 5-minute TED talk around this question, that's the whole message, is that what if we could learn this at 20 instead of 50? That's the whole point.
Well, right now, right? Just right now, everybody chill out and enjoy the ride, right? That's, I mean, but do we? We're like, okay, but then we got to organize it and get the goals together and get the social media person and I listen to a lot of the thought leaders and amazing people that we have on. And I think I have a whole story in the back of my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so different for me. I am still that little girl. Like I pack a punch, but the little girl is still the one driving. And for me, it's about fun and how to have fun. And so I teach people how to have fun first and foremost, grow happy, and then all of the other money and the goals and all that stuff. Do you really need that to have fun and enjoy? And another theme that we've had, Corey, is that a lot of the very, very amazing and unique individuals we've had on specifically this week have already hit that 6-figure, 7-figure, whatever it is, and recognized that that really wasn't the direction or the path that led them to their inner peace, to their joy, to the little girl who loves to have fun and is whimsical and plays. And so what if we were taught growing up that money was one form of exchange, but what if we taught like the power of just intending and trusting, right? And be gracious in our receiving, and things show up that way. So it's a very different approach to it. And I recognize that, making 6 figures is awesome. And it's a great goal to have. And listen, I'm on board and I will support any client that's their goal. But my goal is to help them to get really clear on where they are in their belief in order to be able to receive it in a way that they believe that they're going to feel when it shows up.
So true. So Richelle, I want to run this down. So I'm going to
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to wind us down. So I want to ask you where we can learn more. And I know Elise still has a question she wants to pose, but I want to ask you where we can learn more. And I will say too, the idea of that, I love that idea. And there's a thing people should look up called the Happiness Project. And I haven't looked it up in a while, so I'd have to go back to have more.
I don't have a lot of books, but that one's next to my bed.
Well, and
I have a whole list of happy books. It just says happy, and all I have to do is look at the happy on the side of the book. I don't even read it. I'm like, I just have to be reminded that there's all these books, and if I have a moment, I'll open the book and I'll read whatever paragraph that is in one of the happy books, and I'm like, okay, I got my seed. I kind of take it on the day.
So I need to clarify, because you're talking about the book by Gretchen, I believe, called The Happiness Project. What I'm talking about is actually, it's a country that what they did was they were taking their gross domestic product, like their actual, how they determine currency and how wealthy they are, is all based around happiness. They put in all these measures.
Where is this place?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to remember where it's at, but I'll have to look it up.
I'm going to Google it.
So whether, I know he's liked in certain parts of the country and not as much in others, but whether you like Dr. David Suzuki or not, he's the one that told me about this, the Happiness Project. We were talking in an interview about we should be putting more value on happy, and he told me all about this cool Happiness Project, which I researched the heck out of it at the time, but it was such a long time ago, I forget some of the details. So circling back to Richelle, the most important part right now, Richelle, how can we learn more? And then we'll let Elise ask that very last question, and then I know our next guest is waiting backstage. So Richelle, where can we learn more? How can we connect with you and all that kind of good stuff?
Beautiful. Thank you for asking. You can reach out to me on my website at RichelleLecourtCoaching.com. I am on Instagram at Madame Lecourt, because I'm married to a Frenchman. And I also have a Facebook page, Richelle Lecourt Coaching. You can also email me at contact@RichelleLecourtCoaching.com.
Wow.
Awesome. And are you going to put all that in the comments, Corey? Or actually, Richelle, you can just, when we're finished here, pop into the comments. I always just ask if you can go over to the Facebook group too, because I know there are multiple platforms where people, view the replay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I'm sort of like, the what do I call? I hold space for that Facebook group, so I request that. So this is the mind seed question. So there's thought weeds, belief weeds, and once we pull those and our emotional, response to those, there's a space, right? So now we fill that with a mind seed, and a mind seed is a perspective shift or a seed of perspective that when planted in one's mind will sort of grow into and blossom into more of the life that we could love and love ourselves in.
Love it.
So do you have a mind seed for us?
Ooh, do I have
Something that you kind of a go-to for you that you would love to share?
Yeah. Okay. I really love that. I get a visual as you say that, if we have all of these seeds that are planted and there's weeds all around it, they choke out the seeds. So get rid of the weeds.
So we recognize, I release by pulling mind seeds. I mean, the memory is still there, but that emotional response is now set free. So, but now we have a hole. And so instead of more weeds growing, we plant mind seeds.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. I love this question. I believe that you should plant what you want to see in your future. So if you want to see more love in your future, plant seeds of love and start by planting seeds of love for yourself. If you want to see more joy, more happiness, more pleasure, plant those seeds for yourself because it all starts with you. You plant that seed for yourself and you cultivate it, you learn about it, you grow it, you nurture it. Now you have the lived experience and now you're able to share that with anyone you come into contact with.
Oh my gosh, girl, I adore you. You're so awesome. I also want to share with you, I have a children's book called I Already Am, and you spoke about going back and letting the little girl know, just relax and be patient and enjoy. And I'd love to share with you, I'm going to send you a link to what is it? The audio I get, the Nook. What is it when it's on a Nook or a Kindle?
Well, the
It's
ebook.
hard. It's an actual book, but I would like to send you the the ebook. I'll send you a link to the ebook for your little girl. So whenever she has a moment, you can, read it to her.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Beautiful, Elise. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure, Richelle. I so appreciate you. I thank you. And as always, I'm going to call it a to be continued, my friend.
To be continued. Thank you.
Awesome.
Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
As always. And so we're going to bring our next guest right up, jump right back into the fire with Paul Empey. Hello, Paul. How's it going?
Jump into the fire. Look, his background sort of looks like fire.
It does, doesn't it? It's my little sort of mood sensor in my office. So it's a dragon that you see down on the back there from it actually flying in with its flames. So
I'm trying to see that. Oh, okay. I think
You see it? Where?
Yeah, right there. That's what I was looking at.
Oh, wow. And that's lighting up your whole space.
yeah. So
And you have a lava lamp up there.
And I got a lava lamp. I'm a little bit long in the tooth here, folks. So I deserve to still have my lava lamp. So,
but you know what's wild about that, Paul? And we'll jump right in, I promise. But this is something that just happened to me. I wanted a lava lamp. My grandmother, thankfully, doesn't watch, she doesn't watch this at all. She can't watch this. She's not jumping. She didn't jump into the technology world in the deep end. And so I wanted the lava lamp she had at her house for so long, so long. And I finally got it. And it's, by the way, it's from I think 75 or something like that. I finally got it maybe 6 months ago. And anyway, I got home and the friggin' thing was, when I got it out of the house, it was all leaking. The lamp itself, after it existed for as long as I have. And then I friggin' get it finally. So I still have the base, of course, and then I ordered a new lava lamp for it. But it's still not the same because I still know it's not the original one. Anyway, that's my lava lamp life situation. So I just had to share that.
There you go. Well, listen. Hello to you and Elise. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been following you on these talks, and it's been quite an inspirational week. And I just want to do a shout out to Richelle. What an inspirational young woman. That was fantastic story, and good for her to get to where she's gotten. That's great.
Absolutely. Paul, your lava lamp reminds me, we had a guest talking about being the lighthouse and holding and being the light. So those that are laser focused can kind of come to the light. Well, you're the lava lamp.
There you go. I am, because it's it's one of those things. I think we're going to talk a bit about leadership and what it's meant to me and how important it is to me. So I try to be the beacon of leadership.
Well,
not
it's
always
funny
easy.
when you talk about being the light. Like I don't know, having a bald head, I don't know if it was a wise move to pick the white behind me, because
Sure.
for the first time I feel like I've like this shine in my head, and there's nothing I can do with the lighting. So I feel like I'm a beacon today, but not for the right reasons.
There you go.
So Paul, you've noticed listening this week, typically we like to start by learning about the person, learning what they do, the work they do, all that kind of stuff. So I know your story, of course, but I want to let you tell us a little bit about it so we can get to know you better, and so Elise can get to know you better. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I'll try to keep it short. I'm originally from the States. I grew up south of Boston, down near Cape Cod. And started my work career down there at a company owned by a gentleman by Ben Allen Clark. He owned many companies in that area. And he turned out to be the greatest mentor in my life on my first kick at the cat of working. And he was just a brilliant business leader, a brilliant man, and a brilliant leader. And he would be ahead of the curve, I would say, back then, compared to how true leadership is considered today. And he mentored me for 3 or 4 years and got me to see myself differently as to what I could bring to the table. But he passed away before I was ready for him to pass away. And I went through a very depressing time in which I was angry at him for dying on me before he had passed anything off. And so, or to that point. And my best friend, who was my mother, forced me to take that anger and to put it into a letter as to what did this man mean about you, instead of being angry at him. And through that process, I was able to understand what he had done for me up until that point. And my mother, because of that, to this day, I'm a journaler. So I journal all the time. And so that got me through that stint. But what ended up happening is, from that point, it was 20, I don't want to call them miserable years, but it was 20 years looking for my next van through my working career, and could never find it because no leaders could ever match up to what he was. They were not leaders. They were probably more managers than true leaders. And I always, through that process, always believed, what if I could be the leader of an organization? If I could be, what would I do different? And I formed it, and I would try to instill it in organizations that I worked for. Not with not much success, no matter how hard I tried, because the hierarchy was very difficult, through those years of, if you will, the 70s and 80s, and how companies were run. And so I ended up 27 years ago coming up to Canada on a transfer of technology into Nova Scotia, and fell in love with Nova Scotia, and fell in love in Nova Scotia, and met my wife from the Eastern Shore. And she's an absolutely beautiful lady. But I did find out, now that I'm still here over 27 years, what I was being told is that Eastern Shore girls, Nova Scotian girls, and Canadian women don't transplant very well. So I never went back home to work. I stayed here and built basically a career within the Maritimes, and worked with some great entrepreneurs, but still was never happy with, the leadership. I was very proud of the accomplishments. You talk about, going through the ranks and making money and being successful businesses, but never satisfied with how it was being done. And I saw that need, that we needed to build leaders that could attain all of that without wanting it, by doing the right things and not making it the focal point, just developing other people to get to where you get to. And so, basically that's what I did. And on my last stint, about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm retired. All I'm going to do is I'm going to create this engaged leadership, and I'm going to go out and share experiences and try to develop young talent and leaders in organizations. And the business leaders that I had worked with would tap into me and ask me to go in and take a look at organizations that might be struggling, or their leadership teams were, struggling, weren't working well together. And so through that whole process, it's been just an absolute joyride for me. And it sort of has culminated because my engaged leadership has sort of been put on hold because I came into an organization up here in Atlanta, Canada, called Precision Biologic, and they asked if I would come in for 3 or 4 months, just give some, what's going on, why are we struggling where it's at, and basically it was just that. It was an organization that needed leadership. It had a leadership void beyond, if you can imagine that. And so I presented my findings to the board of directors and the shareholders and said, it's pretty simple. This is all you got to do. And then they asked if I would take over as the CEO of the company. And I went, my wife said, you said you were never going back to work. And I said, there's such a great potential and just such a great crew that I think, given a couple of years with the right leadership, we can make this happen. And that was 5 years ago. And the company has gone from really floundering to just growing exponentially and doing great things, and all under leadership. Not, I've developed a leadership team that it's their reign, it's theirs to do with, hands off, be supportive. I'm thrilled to death because I'm a proponent of it. My executive team is made up of half very talented and brilliant women, and the other half brilliant individuals and men, and they just have taken the organization to the next level because they've been allowed to. And it's really about that. That's my journey, and that's what makes me happy. And it's not salary. It's nothing more than seeing others be successful, happy, quality of life, and realizing that both can exist, and an organization can grow if it has that, and it's treated like a family, and it acts like a family, and plays like a family. So that's been my philosophy through it all.
Wow. I have to say, Paul, sometimes you hear people and you're like, wow, they have a great radio voice. You have a great leadership voice. Your tone, the tone that you exude is very comforting. So I can see you being a great leader and also a great guide, that light, that beacon. So I just wanted to make a comment, because I'm like listening and I'm like, wow, yeah, okay, whatever you say. Yeah, what should we do? What do you propose? What are your findings?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. No, I'm very passionate about it. So
it's
yeah,
funny.
And your delivery is very it's authoritative and concrete and clear, but yet gentle. You're gentle yet firm. There's a gentle yet firm feel that you have. And I think that that's really important. And it's about growing an organization of well-beings. I talk about this a lot, about working with individuals within a team, because a team is built up of beings. And if they're stressed out, freaked out, undervalued beings, then that's your team. Is that the team you want? And so I see you going in and growing organizations of well-beings. And now you can be this really congruent team.
Yeah.
So, Paul, I mean, that at least set me up for a follow-up question to that. And I'll say, I don't know why it popped in my head when you were saying this. I was thinking, because I knew where the story was going. I was thinking of that comment just when I thought I was out. They pulled me back in. Saying that in terms of, I thought you were leaving this. But I wanted to mention one thing we talked about, and then I want to circle back to what I was just going to ask. But I said it earlier, and I don't want to leave it unanswered for people, but I found out what it was. It's the gross national happiness. So the GNH, and it's the country of Bhutan that does it.
Jan, I just joined all these happiness projects on Facebook after you said it, and that wasn't one of them.
I just want to mention that's the country that does it, and they basically go and say, okay, what's our gross national happiness? And they put it like a GNH on it, and like they measure it completely. They measure they measure happiness is what they do. So I wanted to mention that for people that were wondering what I was talking about earlier. I hate to leave things unanswered, but to circle back, Paul, to the question I was going to ask. So Elise was talking about well-beings, and what I'd love to get your take on is, what is the role, do you feel, of wellness in a company? And so when I say wellness, I mean things like looking at the individual and saying, how can we help them with, for example, let's say mental wellness, or also like things like meditation and yoga, and bringing these types of things into the organization so that the person gets, let's say, served as a person rather than just business. Does that make sense? Like, I'm just curious your thoughts on bringing in wellness.
Yeah, well, it absolutely makes sense, and organizations that succeed, and I'd like to think like we have succeeded, treat the employees, health and wellness as importantly as they do the bottom line of the company, and they have to be probably more so than the bottom line, because the bottom line will happen, when you do that. And so at our organization, in both, because in fact, not only did the organization turn around, we acquired an Ontario company to add to the family. So we doubled our size, and a whole new family of people that came into the fold, and we treat it as a family. So we have programs all the time. We have the ERP, which I'm in the wellness program where employees can tap in free of charge and do it confidentially and get any support and help that they need. We constantly will have, lunch and learns where we bring in health and wellness and nutritional and mental health and all of those things. We're just about finishing up an 8-week health program membership to a company up here in Halifax that did everything virtually. So all the employees, and we had well over half of the employees join for the 8 weeks. And participate in the virtual workouts, and hilariously, I got invited last Friday to go to their site and do the virtual workout as the coach with all the employees. And I'll tell you, it was a workout beyond workout. So these are the sort of things that I think more companies need to, because it shows that that's really what's important. It's the employees have to become the first and foremost of importance, and then they'll deliver. And we have core values that are very important, and I reinforce them, and everybody reinforces them, and so and they know them. So I think when you do that, I think the rest will take care of itself. And if you incorporate that into your leaders, to as you say, Elise, is that lead firmly, but with a velvet glove, because we're all human, and we're not perfect, and we just need to make sure that we're there to help and support. And it's worked well. And part of the story is just, and what sort of pulled me out when I say they drew me back in was a little bit, for me, was when they asked if I would take over as CEO, which I had not been a CEO prior to. I've been VPs, COOs, all that. And I looked in the mirror and I said, well, you've professed that if you were ever a CEO, this is how you would lead. So
here you go.
Be careful what you wish for. And it was scary going into it, but I stayed 100% true to what I believed, that I didn't always get fully incorporated anywhere else in my career here. And I couldn't be prouder of the results. And it's really because of how everybody embraced that style of leadership.
What was the name of your mentor?
Van Allen Clark.
So you're carrying on his legacy. So I'm like getting all these down. I'm like, this is your opportunity now to carry on what he gave you.
Yeah.
Like, this is the canvas. And I just think it's a beautiful sort of journey that you came around. It's a wraparound.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. I'll tell you a story, Elise. I do a lot of, public, speaking to young leaders, and I do leadership training as well, while still being a CEO. But in one of those sessions, I tell the story of Van. As a matter of fact, that story is in the book. That's my chapter in the book, is about Van. But I tell the story that when, my mother had me write that letter down, I pull that letter out, and I tell people I still pull that letter out, and I pull it out when I'm down and I'm doubting and I'm not there, and think, what would Van think of me, and what would Van do? So it's almost like I can look, and it brings me back into a reality, and then it gets tucked away, and it's just keep the motivation, because it's working, even because you do have the bumps, right?
What a gift that your mom gave you by helping you see it from that perspective. I see it a lot in clients where they're mourning something that they don't necessarily have right now, but that they really loved, that brought them joy, that brought them happiness, that brought them all this stuff. And this feeling of loss or grief or not having it right now is like ruining all the good stuff that you're missing to begin with. And it's the same concept that your mom brought to light to you at that age, that wait a second, you have all this really good stuff and you're like pissed off, you're missing the good stuff that you're pissed off about missing. So it's just a great way to help you flip your script, really, and take that and go back and recognize all these gifts. And now you're sharing them with, like, I don't even know how many. Yeah. And one of the things that you said too holds so true. And I have no personal relationship with any of these companies, but I've, watched documentaries and stuff. But if we look at Google's and Facebook and Amazon, well, I don't know about Amazon so much, but all these companies that have, games and toys and, this room and that room, and they bring chefs in and they have family days and all this, it grows. The companies are successful. These companies are like exponentially successful, and all the people that are working there, yeah, they probably have their inner, things that don't work and that sort of thing. But the companies are recognizing that and bringing to light for these people things that they enjoy, and
Sure.
they're growing out of joy. And so I'm sure there are other Abercrombie and Fitch. I mean, there are companies out there that use this approach, and they're super, super successful.
Yeah.
So I want to ask a question here. I want to ask if you guys know a name, and then I'm going to explain why I asked this. And then I want to ask you about a book, Paul, your thoughts on the title of a book related to customer service. I just looked over to make sure I had it on my wall over there, in my customer service section. But the question is, do either of you know the name P.C. Merrill?
I know I've heard that, but I don't. I'm not familiar enough with it. So.
And I feel like when I tell you, you'll know why you heard of it. So we're launching a member site next week, and the member site's called the Influencer Vault. And as we were working on the write-up for it, I said, one thing that bothers me is I don't want people to think you have to influence 1 billion people to be an influencer. And so who P.C. Merrill is, you don't know him. Guess who you do know? Zig Ziglar.
Oh my God.
Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
So P.C. Merrill was Zig Ziglar's mentor. They say Zig Ziglar has impacted over 100 million people. So the point is, P.C. Merrill only had to impact one person. And that person impacted 100 million people. Sure. And indirectly, P.C. Merrill had that invisible impact in the world that's immeasurable almost. And I feel like that's the same thing you're carrying on right now. So your mentor,
I hope so.
On. That's what I feel. I just want to share that because sometimes we don't realize there's somebody behind the somebody, and they're still having an indirect impact or an invisible impact on those people as well. And like I said, imagine if there was no P.C. Merrill, those 100 million people that Ziglar impacted might not have been impacted.
Yeah. And Corey, what you just said there is perfect, because when I do the speaking and the training and I talk about Van and I talk about the letter, I always end it with, now you have an opportunity to be this in somebody's life if you're willing to do it. Real Absolutely. Simple. That's my last comment. You heard this story. You have the opportunity to be that person in somebody's life if you're willing to take it and seize it and do it.
Okay, so I have a question for you on that note. So if you had your top 3, we'll just do number 1. One of the approaches that Van shared with you, or perspectives that he's helped seed in you, what is something different or that you bring to the table as a leader that you weren't seeing in other companies and organizations? What is the sweet sauce that Van had that you're now carrying on the legacy of? I know that you're saying like bringing in well-being and, creating this family, but if there was one specific thing that you could choose, one thing that you're bringing to the table that you think is probably a seed that you're planting that's making the biggest impact, do you have that one seed?
Yeah. And I can tell you, he was a master. At least it was.
It's a lease. I don't rent. I don't own. I lease. Yeah, okay.
He was a master. He owned the company, but he was very rarely in the company because he had so many companies. But when he was, his impact was brilliant. And he had this uncanny knack of showing the employees how much they meant to him and how important they were to him. And he would walk through the building and know every employee on a first name basis, as well as their family and children and what was going on in their life. And I proud to say that, albeit, 80 employees, I know every one of my employees at both companies on a first name basis and their family and the challenges that they have and what they go through, and make it a point of when I'm in the building to walk around. I don't spend time in my office. My door is never closed, and I spend more time popping into people's offices and finding out what's going on, both from a business, but more importantly on a personal level. And I would say if more CEOs or more leaders could have that humility, because to me the most valuable asset to any leader is humility. And if you can show humility, you will get the attention of people to believe in whatever the vision is and why they want to be a part of that. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely. And it resonates on so many levels right now, growing this first destination that we have, this first retreat, and we have outside these doors so much going on. We have artists that are here. We have work campers that came and are helping us like enhance our vibe. And I'm out there like sitting with this one at the fence, and I recognize how blessed that I am to get to know these people, and that her mom's moving in and she just had a grandbaby and she has to go, like, so I get to know these personal stories, and to me, I feel honored to get to share that part of their lives with them, and they become family. Even our guests that come here, they become family, and I get to know their story or what's going on. And so it kind of makes me almost want to, tear up a little bit, because there is something so beautiful. And that's really what having this human experience is all about. It's about really having these firsthand experiences with people, getting to know somebody, whether you're growing a business or not. That's what we're here for. All this other stuff is extra, but the root of what it is truly about is to get to know all the amazing people all the amazing spirits that have come in human form to have this experience together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So I thank you for sharing that. That sort of was like a little like a little personal mirror confirmation.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, mention one thing and then ask you one thing, Paul. I mentioned a book I wanted to ask you about, but you made me think of another book that if somebody wants to really get good at customer service, I probably can't recommend many customer service books higher. And most people today don't know about it because it's from I think 75. It's called Crowning the Customer by a guy named Virgil Quinn, who owned the Super Quinn superstores in Ireland. And it was this, it grew exponentially. It was one of these companies like Costco where the costs were like this low and the revenue was high. But the company, what he did is he built it around families. But what I loved is it was all about the customer, in the sense that, to your point, he didn't have an office in the company anywhere. He did not have one office, like for himself, an office. And all the managers had the most uncomfortable offices. And in the winter, he'd have the air conditioning turned on. And I mean, I don't even know if it's legal to do that now from a union point of view or something. But his whole thing was, I don't want you sitting behind a desk, pushing papers. I want you down there talking to customers. And he had all these philosophies. Like, he built a lot of the things we see now in North American stores. Like he had things like the kiosks. He started those hot dogs, like when you want to try a hot dog as you're walking by. They say he was the one who first kind of created that. But I bring all this up because there's another book that I think of that's called The Customer Comes Second. Have you ever heard of that book?
I have, yes.
So my question is, and I just brought the Virgil Quinn thing up because you made me think of it about the not sitting in the office all the time. So I just wanted to add that it's the book itself. When you get in there, there's so much infinite wisdom in that book. But The Customer Comes Second is another book. And it goes to this point you talked about, if I take care of the employees, they'll take care of the rest. What are your beliefs on that? Do you believe, I mean, I know philosophically you could say, well, the customer's still the main person. But what do you think on that idea that if you treat the employees, if you take care of them like they're the customers, they'll take care of the customers like they're the customers, instead of you trying to focus on both?
I like that.
I talk about it all the time at our all-employee meetings. And I have bi-weekly all-employee meetings where I address every employee in the company. Now I'm doing it virtually, but normally I would do it live. And the one thing that I always reinforce is that for the past 5 years, our rating on customer survey is over 93% and higher every year. And I reinforce to all of them, that's because of the environment within the building. You cannot get that if you've got an unhappy family. You can't fake it. You can fake it for a year, maybe with a great product or whatever, but eventually that erodes. And it's absolutely the formula and the main ingredient to happy customers. Because the employees are going to do the extra effort because of their environment. Mm-hmm. They'll do the limited effort because of their environment. You just have to make sure that they have the best environment and it's there, and then they will deliver. You don't even have to worry about it. It just takes care of itself.
Absolutely. I do hear a little of that Cape Cod come out.
Yeah, you'll hear a little bit of the Boston.
The effort.
Yeah, I'll park the car in the backyard. That's how I used to speak.
Only every once in a while does it use all you alls or something. You said something before. I'm like, that's. Now, were you near New Bedford area?
I did. I grew up I grew up in a town called Mattapoisett.
Okay.
Which was 2 towns. It was Mattapoisett, Fairhaven, New Bedford. And so, yes, I'm very familiar with New Bedford and the Portuguese community, and I love Portuguese food and kale soup and linguiça and chorizo.
All that. Yeah. But there is another term for the Portuguese. What is the other name? I'll have to think of it. Yeah, it's Portuguese, but there's Cape Verdeans.
Cape Verdeans, yes.
Cape Verdeans.
Yes, Cape Verdeans.
Yes. And it's funny because my sister was a traveling surgical tech, and she did 2 stints in New Bedford, and they have this it's a very interesting town. Talk about, like, I don't know if it's in a vortex. It has so much potential and so much going on, but there's so much vacancy in there. Yes. So aside from that, but they have a very interesting, I don't know if it was like the Chamber of Commerce or, the library. Maybe we went and found out that actually my father's mother's family is from New Bedford. And it was a very wealthy area. I mean, some of those houses are mansions.
Well, in the whaling days, it was the whaling capital of the U.S.
I mean, the diversity from those mansions to you get to the town is like there's sort of like just one or the other. There's no real middle ground there. But what a great area! Yeah. So when you said that, I was like New Bedford, Cape Verdeans. Okay, absolutely. That was a little personal interjection. I like that. We find out a little bit more.
Sure.
So, Paul, I wanted to ask you then, when you talk about you've been there 5 years. And it was a 3-month stint that you've been on the 3-month stint for 5 years. What's next? And when I say that, what I mean is this now, do you envision that this is still a long-term thing? I know you still have engaged leadership, I think, on the side. And so I'm just wondering what the future looks like for Paul, or is there any changes at all?
Oh, yeah, no, it won't be another 5 years. Listen, I've now got an organization, quite honestly, that doesn't need me. And, so, there are a couple of things that I'm in the middle of now for the organization, where I'm more the face of the organization. Before COVID, I was traveling the world, talking to key opinion leaders Precision, we work in hemophilia and thrombophilia and hemostasis. So we make devices that, help with, the treatment in, hemophilia and bleeding disorders. And so I was traveling. I had finally gotten it to the point that I was out of the building 80% of the time, traveling around the world and meeting, potential customers, but meeting key opinion leaders. What's the next cutting edge? What are we doing about this horrible thing? And so there'll be a bit more of that once COVID is done. But I mean, as far as the organization, the leadership teams at all levels in the organization, they don't need me. They'll do just fine. They're just fantastic. They are what has made it all possible. So.
What a great place to be, though, to be able to say you've worked with an organization that now doesn't need you. Most people would have a hard time with that, I think, emotionally, like, oh, I'm not needed anymore. I totally get that you're not that person. But what I mean is, to me, that's such a great success.
that was my ultimate goal. My goal is always to make myself irrelevant, to be honest with you.
Because then you can have more fun.
Yeah,
that's not fun, but you can go off and do your next thing.
Yeah, if I can have impact positively on people where I'm irrelevant to their learning and they've got it, great, because then it's a fantastic feeling, right? That's how it works.
It takes the pressure off too, right? Like, I'm not in charge of your happiness. I'll help you figure out how to get there. And
Pretty
then
much.
when you know the tools and the, the keys to get there, then you can go and figure that out for yourself.
Yep. Yep.
We had on a previous, and I don't think it was on this event, but it was on our other event, I believe. But we had Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth.
Yep.
One of the most well-known books about how to basically franchise your business, even if you don't want to own a franchise. How to make yourself basically replaceable, essentially. Like how to build a business that can run without you. And so I think he'd be proud to hear what you're doing there. But it seems like that's kind of the message that he talks about is build a business that can operate without you. And whether you just decide to stay with that business or not, it's up to you. But he feels that should be the goal of businesses.
Sure. Yep.
So you build to the point where they could survive without your interference, if you will.
Yeah, and I think if there's one tidbit that I would give to people is I don't have an insecure bone in my body. So if people that can just let go of the insecurity and be comfortable with who you are, what you have accomplished, what you can do, where you failed. It's not nothing. I don't have anything to prove. I want to have fun, and I want people to grow, and I want people to be successful. It's not about proving anything, to be honest with you. It's just so if everybody can go shooting by me at the organization as they have and their talent and their abilities, God bless them all, is what I would say.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you see this coming, Paul, from a mile away, probably. I've asked one main question, is the only kind of question I've stuck to throughout the day and most of the week. My time machine question, you probably heard me ask Richelle it as well. But basically, my question I want to ask you, Paul, as we start to bring things to a close is, if you could jump in that time machine and go back and talk to a younger Paul and give him some life advice, what do you think you might tell that Paul?
I would say that after the passing of Van and then the next 20 years, don't focus on, the angry or the negative. Focus on what it is you can do to get better and better. And eventually you'll get the opportunity to share that. And for that period of time, I was looking for the next Van. I guess I could be, it might sound, self-serving, but I'm not. And at least I'm saying it because of what you said. I guess all I had to do was look into myself. I'm not the next Van, but I'm hoping I'm as close to who he was now. And if I had focused on that instead of looking for another one, it might have happened sooner. But it doesn't matter because everything happens in the time frame that it's supposed to happen. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Wow.
So can I admit something? So we're RVers. We live in an RV now. We've traveled for 2 years. And every time you said I was looking for my next van, I'm like, did you talk about traveling? Was he hippied out with his lava lamp? What do you mean his next van? Did I miss something in all this? But it's van. Okay.
Yep,
the next
Van Allen
van.
Clark. Yep. The next van. Yep.
What van?
I caught it this time, but the first time you said it, Paul, I was the same thing. So sure, the next van. That must be it.
I'm like, wow. Is it a pleasure way?
I guess, but I always knew him intimately as Van. So
yeah, and I was thinking maybe it was an acronym that meant something about a mentor. Even though that's the weird part. Even though I heard you say his full name and heard you say his name was Van.
Yeah, me too. It just when you kept saying my next van, you got a lava lamp behind you, Paul. So in
know,
my mind, I'm like, you're looking for your next ride, the next van. I thought maybe that was a new term that I wasn't aware of. The next van. Well, I like that though. Looking for your van.
Yep.
So having said that, I'm going to ask you, Paul, how we can learn more and connect with you if people want to reach out and connect with you. But at the same time, I know Elise probably has her last question as well. But whichever direction you want to go, Elise, do you want Paul to?
Well, I feel like this entire conversation has been seeded with mind seeds. You know, like you have just dropped mind seeds and help us plant all these perspective shifts throughout the entire conversation that we had. However, if you do have a specific mind seed that you tend to use or plant in your mind when you're having a moment of thought weeds and belief weeds growing, is there a mind seed that you can plant and it's like a seed of perspective shift? Like mine is anything is possible when you believe it is.
Sure.
So something that's neutral planted in somebody who may be having a hard time right now, and they could just plant that thought right now and help them flip their script a bit.
Yeah, I guess what I would say to that is you should be looking at the seeds that actually have been planted, that have fallen off of the limbs, and look at them and nurture them. And if it's to be happy, be happy. If it's to be, content in who you are, and you don't feel insecure. Do the things that are holding you back, because they're in all of those seeds that have fallen off the tree that you've ignored and let it fall to the ground. Now nurture them, and then it will grow. So, my life has been filled with a multitude of ups and downs, but through it all, I wouldn't change a single minute in my life, and wouldn't spend an ounce looking back at, well, what if I did something different? Which I love the question that you asked, but the Paul who I am now, if I wouldn't go back and do it, I would give advice to somebody to do it, but I wouldn't change. I am who I am because of every minute of my life has made me who I am at this minute in my life. And I'm so comfortable in that skin. So I guess that would be the seed. Try to be comfortable in your skin and realize that. And if you're not quite comfortable, it's going to come. It's going to come. You're going to find that path because I do believe everything happens for a reason. So.
Awesome. I love it. So the bottom line is dig you now.
Right. There you go.
and to that point, again, at least I'm hoping you'll see this common theme. I've seen the common theme 5,000 times. Hopefully you're going to see it as I keep asking this question. But that is a common theme, is that people wouldn't get in the time machine, or if they did, they wouldn't try to change anything because they like where they're at now. The challenge, I think, and I'm not saying it has to change, because to your point, Paul, you had to go through all those ups and downs, and maybe everybody does anyway. But it's interesting that it seems like we all have to hit a certain age and go through so much to eventually realize, I wouldn't change any of that. Exactly. That's really what it always comes down to. I wouldn't change a thing. But how? So on one hand, I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we knew that when we were 20? But maybe that would take away the great person that person was going to become if we took away all the things when they were 20. So maybe they don't need to hear the wisdom. Who knows?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like a double-edged sword. So, Paul, I took away asking you that question. So I'll come back to that, which is, how can we learn more? Where would you send people if they wanted to just learn more about what you're doing?
Sure. Well, it's in-gaged, engage.ca. Now, the website is still there, and it hasn't been tidied up for quite a while. I've been a CEO, and it hasn't been there, but there's really good information there. Or look up my name on LinkedIn. And if you just want to have some fun and see an absolutely beautiful, spectacular company, look up on the internet Precision Biologic Inc. I think you would be impressed with the team and the staff. So
wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, like a true pleasure.
It has been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed the conversations, and keep up the great work. And I'm going to continue to watch even the next guest. And I've been watching pretty much all week in and out. So you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you. And again, I'm going to ask you as well, if you could hop on the Facebook group, the bLU Talks Flip Your Script Experience, and that contact information that you shared. Just pop it in the comments for those that watch the replay on that stream, and that would be awesome, because this way, they can find out more about you, and put in that the company too, Precision
Biologic.com.
Biologic.com. Yeah. So, beautiful. Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much. To be continued, my friend.
You got it, buddy. Take care.
Okay, thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're going to bring
great guy. Oh,
absolutely.
Hi, Leanne.
Hello, YouTube.
Hello,
Oh,
hello.
look at your background with your flowers and these birds. We make quite the scene.
We do. How does it get any better? I love it.
Is that a sunflower way in the back over there?
That's a painting of mine. Actually, they're all paintings of mine.
Really?
Yeah, really. That one's for sale. That sunflower over there.
Oh.
It's beautiful. We have artwork from local artists that we just put on the walls and people could buy them right off the wall here, but that would be my personal one in the RV. That's so beautiful. We'll talk later. We'll talk art later.
I love the birds, and I've been noticing.
You know what? One of my best friends, he's 90 years old. He's the master of the masters. He paints Picasso's, Renoirs, every single genre. He calls himself the master of the masters, and he taught himself 40 years ago. And he said, if the masters can do it, I can do it better. His name is Paul Kleinkopf, and these are his originals. He gave me 5 of these that are connected and 5 others of his originals to put in our suite. So I got his original, but the other ones are the masters. So I'll let him know. He'll be so thrilled to know that he was on air.
Yeah, feel free to put his name in the chat, and I can see it. I'd love to see more of his stuff.
I can put it in here.
So, Leanne, before we jump into things, would I be putting you on the spot to ask you that painting you said for sale? How much is it for sale for, so we can get the word out for people watching?
This one, the sunflower behind me, I'm selling for $440.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be up on my website. I'm actually in the midst of creating a new website right now, so it'll be up on there shortly. Okay. Maybe it won't make it there on time. By then maybe it'll sell. So who knows?
Absolutely amazing stuff. So Leanne, on that note, can you tell us? And you've probably seen this is what we pretty much do when we open up everything. But can you tell us a little bit about your backstory and journey, just so we can get to know you a little bit better? And
absolutely.
I'm going, if you don't mind, sorry to interject. I was going to mention, there's something at my door again. I'm just going to jump off for a second. I'm still listening in, just like yesterday. If that's cool, Elise, are you okay with that?
Absolutely. We'll hang, Leanne and I. We're good.
I'll be right back.
We got this.
Okay.
Cool. Do you still want me to share the backstory with you, Lise?
Yes, I want to know who you are. We just met, like literally right now.
Awesome. So. Awesome. Well, I mean, as you can see from some of the art, I've done art for my whole life. I almost went to art school, oddly enough. I went and toured an art college. And at the time, I was also really interested in becoming a nurse. So I chose to go and get my nursing degree. And only a couple of years into my nursing career, I developed some pain in my lower back, and which actually sent me off work for maybe a few weeks until I saw a physio and all the things. And I got an x-ray, and they said I had this degenerative disc disease of my lumbar spine. So I thought, okay, well,
wow,
interesting. I was only about, in my early 20s. So I thought, well, this is an interesting diagnosis to get in your early 20s. And, right away, I thought in my mind that it was, created from heavy lifting with nursing and things like that. And so regardless of how I thought it was created, I sought out treatment, of course. I did physio, I did acupuncture, I saw a chiropractor, massage, obviously, and I even I saw an osteopath. And every time I would get just a little bit of relief and then be back to square one. And then it wasn't until I was actually pregnant with my second daughter that this was still, up in my world. It had been about 8 years of like this on and off chronic pain. And I was also aware of me desiring to shift out of nursing. And this has been going on for a while. And simply as I've always been into energy healing and into more the spirituality and more into a holistic, I guess, approach. And then it just really started coming all back to me. And so what happened was I was pregnant with my second daughter, as I said, and my sister-in-law, who's actually a massage therapist, she invited me to take an Access Bars class. And it was in Victoria, BC, and I had never been to Victoria. And I was absolutely excited to go. And I said, and I didn't know much about the class. And I just simply asked her, you know, a little bit, can you tell me a little bit about it? And she said, well, I don't even know that much about the class. I do know that you get a whole day to yourself. And my husband was coming with my other daughter, who was 2 at the time. And I hadn't actually had or chosen a whole day to myself since becoming a mom. Like, I don't remember the last time. And so I was like, okay, I don't even care what the class is. I'm on board. I'm jumping
right.
in.
Day trip, weekend trip, I'm in.
Right. I'm going for a full day of relaxation and mommy time. So I went, and her and I took this class together. And then, of course, I became certified to actually practice the access bars. And
can you explain what that is? Because honestly,
sure, yeah.
I mean, I'm an EFT practitioner, and I can already get a download of the lower back, and I'm like, I get the story.
Absolutely, right. And so, and I think I even heard Kimmy K talking a little bit about some of the access bars, because I know she's familiar, and she does work in that a few days ago. Or maybe that was yesterday. Can't remember. I've been watching these.
I think it was 2 days ago or something. Yeah.
Right. So basically, the access bars were discovered by Gary Douglas. He actually channeled these bar points. And what they are these 32 bar points in and around the head that store electromagnetic components of thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs. And it could be, you know, storing things from your childhood, or from what happened yesterday, or what happened lifetimes ago. And so in storing these, again, they all carry, like, of course, our emotions all carry an electromagnetic component and a frequency. And so by simply getting these run, what actually happens is your brain waves actually begin to slow down when you get your bars run, which then, of course, they slow down to a theta state, which then, of course, allows the subconscious mind to be accessed, hence the access bars. And so from that place, it can actually start to release that impact that emotions have at a cellular level. And it can actually help to start to create ease, where you might have dis-ease running in your, you know, life, in your mind, in your body. And yeah, so my journey.
So are you hooked up to like a machine?
You're not. So again, I became a practitioner when I took that 1-day class. And then now I can run other people's bar points. So basically, I'm just touching really gently these different points around the head. It's the most gentle.
So you're touching somebody else's head.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to understand, because like EFT is the same. It calms the amygdala, the flight, fright, or freeze. The subconscious script comes up. So conceptually, we're having the similar results, but the process is very different. So you put them on the points.
You just
touching the points.
Yeah, you're literally just touching these points that correspond to different things. For example, there's a bar point for money. So anywhere that you might have considerations, points of views about money, then it's obviously it's gonna just activate that energy point, and you're able to, once your brainwaves slow down to that theta state, you're actually going to let go of, release, and dissipate whatever is, wherever, you know, you might have some polarities running about money, or maybe, you know, money's right or it's wrong, or maybe you agreed and aligned or resisted and reacted to money at some point in your life or in a past life. And it can start to just create space for new possibilities to show up. And so what happened for me after taking this class.
Funny that you say money, because that's lower back.
Right,
so
absolutely.
It's that you're using that as the analogy for the lower back challenges.
Absolutely. And so what happened for me was that once I became a practitioner, and then there was like just this lightness, there was a pull to it for me. It felt like familiar, and it felt like I could perceive that I was beginning to shift into this more holistic way. And I could also perceive that things were changing. I was lightening up, like all this heaviness that I, you know, carried around from, you know, childhood, or things that I wasn't even aware I was carrying around, right? Points of views that maybe, again, didn't even maybe belong to me. Maybe I just subconsciously took them on as my own, and maybe they belonged to my parents, right? Or whoever. And so once I became a practitioner and I started running other people's bars, I could see the change. And then I became aware too that my body was having more ease. The more that I was getting somebody to touch these points on my head, which my husband, I'm so grateful that he didn't take the class, but he's just learned them through me. Like, he didn't sit through a whole class to take it, but he's learned them through me, and he was willing to say, you know what, if this contributes to you and your body, I will happily run these bar points. And he could see that my like back, all this was changing. And until one day it was like, it was gone. It was the coolest thing. And at the time too, I could tell that my, having shifted into this more holistic way, and pathway, it led me to, I became certified doing Reiki. I became certified taking some other classes through Access Consciousness, which is where I learned how to do the Access bars. So I became an Access energetic facelift facilitator and practitioner. I became actually a bars facilitator as well. So I actually taught bars classes for about 3 years. I was teaching other people how to do this. And yeah, I could just see and then I started shifting out of my nursing career. And the moment I really made that decision to shift out of that career path and into not only this holistic way, and also started doing more art and creation. And that was the other thing. There's a bar points for creativity and creating connections. And I could tell that it was like the more I was getting my bars run, it was like just activating all these areas in my body and all these things that I had just shut off and, cut off from my life. And so, yeah, it's everything started lightening up to the point that I totally healed my back from this diagnosis, and I do a lot of different things now. So,
and here you are. So from beginning to end of this journey, when did you start? How long ago? You might have said it, but I'm
right. Well, it was probably about 8 years in total. And part of what really sparked me to even take that class in the first place was that I knew I desired to have as natural of as childbirths as I could. And I did, and I was really grateful. And I had a home birth with my second daughter in the birth pool, which was really cool. And that's even something that my doctor, with my first, with the doctor was surprised that with my diagnosis of degenerative disc disease, that I would be able to do that. And that was one of my, my asks and my wishes was to honor what my body was desiring to create there. And it worked out for me. And so, yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you for explaining, because I guess I remember, was it Lisa who mentioned it? Somebody mentioned the access code. But honestly, I've never even heard of it, and it's very, very similar about getting into that emotional root of where a lot of this stems from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was Kimmy who talked about it.
Kimmy. Okay.
So I have a question for both of you that I'll put out there, and anybody who knows me knows whenever I ask this question.
Is there a background? Somebody got their thing on. I just hear.
I hear an echo, but I don't know which side it's on. I have nothing else going on in the computer, so what I was going to ask you both is, I know somebody who believes fully in most modalities. So believes in Reiki, believes in energy work, believes in healing. But he's gone for various different treatments of each. More for preventative maintenance, let's call it. It wasn't to heal something. But one of the things he said to me is he's never felt any shift after doing any of it, good or bad, any emotion or anything. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that means that he's fairly healed, or is there...
Wait, ask the question again. I keep hearing the reverb.
So...
Leanne, can you just try to mute you just for 1 second and see? I just tried to mute me and I still heard it.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah, so it's gone. I don't want to mute her though, but it's coming from her end.
Well,
we have voices and angels and guides right now, and they all want to share with us.
No worries. What I'll do is I'll mute for a second while I ask the question, and then I'll open it up because I think it's when I'm talking is when it's happening. So my question was, this friend of mine I know really well, and I was going to say something, but I won't because it would give away who it is. But he said to me, he believes, like, he has his girlfriend goes and gets treatments. He believes in Reiki. He believes in tapping. He believes in access conscious bars, everything. But he's been for various treatments in his life. Now he's going for like relaxation and.
Is this for a specific thing?
No, what I'm saying is he's going basically just because he believes in it. He believes that it's good for you to constantly be, like, for example, just like going for massage. But what he said to me is, he said he's never felt anything after any of them, like never felt a shift, healing, motion, nothing. And he was saying, what do you think that's all about? So it popped in my head because this was like about a week ago he asked me this. And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't necessarily believe that everybody feels something. But I guess I'd pose the question to both you as people who practice this type of stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll just do my quick. There's one of two things. First thing is if he's going for all these treatments because he believes in it, there's got to be something. Otherwise, he would be doing something else with his valuable time. So there's something there. Otherwise, you don't spend all this time going to all these different treatments and trying out all these different things, unless he's doing research for a book. So my intuition is that there is something there. And the second piece is there's something called polarity reversal. And polarity reversal is when the right and the left side, and I'm just going to give you the basic 101, it's really deep rooted, so deep rooted that there's not a conscious awareness of it, and it's kind of stored in that subconscious hard drive. And there are, in EFT, the work that I do as my release process, there are very specific points to address polarity reversal in certain circumstances and situations. So, and that can come from deep rooted in childhood, somebody's dehydrated even, or on too many medications. There's many reasons why we would have polarity reversal. So addressing the first point is there's got to be something, or he would be, traveling in a van or traveling in the world or doing painting or something other than trying all these different modalities to try to find a shift or feel a shift in something.
Well, I know. So I'll answer that part because we had this conversation, and his reasoning is, he said, I just like to explore different things. I like to learn from different things. So he said, for instance, I go to, acupuncture and meditation one week. And he said, the next week I'll try a different modality, and then I'll go back to acupuncture. And he said, I just feel like every week I should be doing something for my health. And so he said, I just love to explore new experiences. But he said, I find it weird. He said, I feel a difference when I go to massage and chiropractic, and I feel a difference when I go to acupuncture. But he said, none of the other modalities I ever feel any shift, nothing. So anyway, it was a conversation.
I'm curious to hear Leanne's perspective.
Yeah, I really liked I liked what you had to share there as well, Lise, and I just wonder too. I think sometimes as well we're taught in this society sometimes that like we have to be. It's like, okay, for me, for instance, with my back having like gone through all those modalities, and even with like our health benefits, I'll even say too, like we're taught, use up your benefits, they're running out, like you have to use them. And it's like, what if for me, for instance, I was perceiving that I was getting more change getting my bars run, and I would maybe get them run, however often I was getting them. And then I really had to look at, like, do I need to go for massage anymore? Do I need to go for all these other things? Like, what's actually creating the shift and the change? And so I think sometimes too, we can get, and maybe like, again, this is just for something for him to check into, but sometimes I think we can pick up this point of view that we need to go and do these things. And it's just okay to check in and say, like, okay, body, are you enjoying these things? Because really our body actually has a separate consciousness from our being. And so when we start to include our body and say, okay, body, would you actually like to go to this? Then we're really including our body as well. And then it makes it easier sometimes to even begin to follow what actually feels right for us. Like, am I doing this just for something to pass the time? Am I doing this for fun? Does it actually feel good? Like, all these things, right? And not that there's any right or wrong in it. It's just whatever's fun for him, right? Whatever's fun for him and his body.
That's a great perspective too. I like it. That's awesome. And it's very true. And also with supplements, and we don't talk a lot about supplements here, but for me, like I'll take, and then I just know that I'm good for right now. Like just let my body settle into where I'm at right now with like nothing for a week.
Me
or
too.
Even two.
I totally check in like every day. Like I do muscle testing just because I have those pills in I've really gotten to this place where I check in with my body every day, more than, and even with the things that I'm putting in my body, like Truth Body, do you desire? Because the truth really gets your body to what actually is heavy and light for your body, because we're really eating for our body. And so it's like, Truth Body, would you desire this vitamin D today? And some days it's a yes, some days it's a no. And I just honor that without a point of view, without me, my being, having a point of view about it.
Do you actually do the muscle testing, or do you just ask?
I do more with my body. Like if it's light for me, I usually move into it and I feel that expansive, just light opening. And if it feels heavy, then it's kind of like contracted and tight for me. Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna do that every day. I never thought of. I just kind of every once in a while I'll get the check-in, like, wait a second, let's take a break. But every day, that's a good, just laying in bed even, right? Can you just do it even before you get up? How am I going to start my day?
Yeah.
Well, I'll add into this as well. Where the conversation came up, I feel we answered it fully, but I'll just give you context. Where it came up, and I'm just going to mute you for a sec, Leanne, just so I don't get the reverb, but then I'll bring you right back on. But where it came up for me, or where the conversation started, was I was talking about how I go for a massage once a week. And I do it for preventative maintenance. That's what I consider it. Who is it? Somebody just said it the other day, an ounce of prevention is better than whatever of correction. And that's, so I feel like it's like I'm going in advance so I don't have the issues. But how it came up is I was saying when I go for massage, 99% of the time, if I go to a new massage therapist, which, doesn't happen often, but each time I have, they're like, it's so weird. You don't have knots. I don't know what to do with you. Like, I don't actually know what to do because, like what one lady said, I haven't had a person on here in 7 years without knots. You're the first person I've seen in 7 years. I mean, I'll take that as a good thing. But the question is, if I stop going for massage, I'm guessing I would probably have knots. So, I don't know, in terms of, that's how the conversation came up, is I said, well, they told me I don't have knots. So I don't feel what somebody else would feel from a massage because I don't have knots. So I don't feel that maybe that tension that somebody else will feel when they're being massaged, or that pain, because I don't have that thing. And then he said, well, I go for this and I don't experience anything. I just want to give you guys context, but I totally get both sides of that, because again, I go for my massage and they're telling me you don't have this. So my body's saying you don't probably need this right now. I'm making a conscious choice. And by the way, I'm spending the money. We have a plan, but I always go way above my plan. So I'm making the choice to spend the money once a week because I like the relaxation side of massage. And I feel I'm doing a bit of preventive maintenance, but that's just a personal choice. So just want to put that out there.
I could use a massage right now. I woke up today and my lower back and my back, I've been sanding. We're building this manatiki hut outside, and we had a China berry tree that got taken down. And so anyway, long story, I'm sanding it and then polyurethaning it. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll do it. And now I know why I have people to do it, because I woke up today and I'm like, oh my gosh, talk about knots. I could feel them right now, Corey.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, so you're ready? Can you do this bar thing virtually now? Or do you need to be like?
Yeah, you need to be with the person. And there's a whole point to that, in the sense that, one of the intentions behind it is really that it's opening you up to receiving, is what it is as well. And so receiving, energy, receiving in a different way. And so that contact, obviously the human connection contact piece is really important with the access bars. So you actually need to be in person with the bars. But I do some other things virtually as well. I do coaching, and I can do Reiki, by distance, and some other and different energetic clearings, like past life clearings, and energetic blocks, chakra clearings, and just all kinds of different cool things. So, yeah.
So are all of these modalities birthed from your own personal experience and journey that you went through?
I would say so. I would say definitely I just kept following that lightness. And again, going back to tuning into my body, I would just, kept asking, my body, like, body, what would you like to do now? And when I would ask, it was like someone would show up, just when they show up at that time. And it was like, oh, there's a lightness there. And I would be pulled toward it. Or, oh, like there's a lightness here now. And I'm going to explore that. And speaking of things just sort of coming like that, and I think I was sharing with you, Lise, while you were, Corey, there was like, it sparked my creative flow again. And not only that, but we were just out at the cabin, one weekend, and then I just had these words come to me, and it really was based off my own story. And then I wrote it down, and then I wrote and illustrated this children's book from So this,
wait, what's it called? I can't see it.
It's called All the Things You Could Be. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh my God, it's like I Already Am.
Yeah, so
what is it about?
Yeah, so it just explains it all in a nutshell, and it really got birthed at this whole time of creation of me shifting and just following my joy and lightness. And then it also really shares, like, it really honors the fact, and I know you've talked about this with a couple other guests, Lisa Beck was one of them, about how, like, we're all so multifaceted. And, sometimes we just really try so hard to pigeonhole ourselves into, like, well, I have to be this. Or, like, for me, I went to university and got my nursing degree. I worked as a registered nurse for 12 years. And does that mean that I have to be a nurse until I retire? Right? Or, like, what if I can still do healing? And what if I can still be creative and have all these energies that make me me and still, be me? And just expand into more possibilities with it.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful. Now, is that on something you can buy on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or is it available? Where is it available?
Yeah, you can buy it on Amazon and Indigo online, Barnes & Noble, like you said. Also, my publishers at Friesen Press Publishing in Victoria, BC. And you can buy direct from there. And then also you can purchase direct from me, of course. I can ship anywhere in the world. And then I have this really cute bookmark that I had made with my publishing team. And it just says, of course, has the name of the book on it, but it just says, you can see that it says, be kind, be brave, be you. And so I just include that. I throw that in with my books. And so, yeah. Fun.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. I think that those kind of books are game changers for not only the children, but for the parents who read them to the children. And that was really the premise behind the children's book that I wrote, because as parents, and as you know, and Corey, as you know, sometimes we like to project or interject what we think may be best for, even though we're all conscious-minded parents right here, but still it slips every once in a while. But reading that book is also soothing and a confirmation for a new parent, or even a parent with many kids, to say, you know what, it's okay to allow our children to be who they are and explore all of the opportunities and taste all the bits of life and chill out.
Right? Yeah, for sure. And I asked Corey. Yeah, I was going to say, I asked Corey if there's a possibility I could read it to you all, and I don't know if we have time for that still, but it takes about under 5 minutes.
Yeah, so Leanne asked if she could read it to us and said it'd probably take 5 to 10 minutes, which I'm completely fine with. I wanted to add to Leanne, it's something I've been doing throughout the week, so I'm going to commit to about 2 copies that we can give away. So at the end, like next week, we'll be doing giveaways for people to comment and stuff like that. And so I'll make sure to do that, but I'm going to add 2 of your books as well. So
that's awesome.
Empey came on this week that I realized was an author. That's been my plan. So we'll do that with your book too. But I'm okay with you reading it. But I think Elise has something to add.
Well, I think I wonder if we put ourselves on mute, because I'm still hearing that reverb, and I want to be able to hear you clearly when you read. I'm going to put myself on mute and see if that helps.
Cool. I asked all the energy, all the light beings to just, exit if they could, please, so that we can have some, because, of course I call them in when something like this, and then you don't become aware that, that can create a little blur. So you all can hear me? Thumbs up? Yeah? Sort of? Is it better now?
So you're breaking up a bit, I think, in between, but it's right now.
Okay.
I think we would be better off leaving a bit of a. Okay, I'll let you go.
It might just have an echo, but it's pretty short. So you'll see, hopefully you can see the pictures as long as you can see everything. Let's see what I can sit, where I can sit that I can, this way or this way? This way, maybe. There. Okay. You could be an astronaut and fly to the moon. You could be a musician and come up with a tune. You could be a teacher making lessons and plans. You could be a traveler discovering new lands. You could be an artist painting rainbows and trees. I can go this way. You could be a beekeeper watching over the bees. Go this way, I guess. You could be a doctor saving lives every day. You could be an athlete where sports are your play. Yes, all of these things you could be and could do. I wonder though, what if you chose to be you? And what if these things you already are? Like the astronaut brave, you're sure to go far. Like the musician expressive, you speak your mind. Like the teacher encouraging, patient and kind. Like the traveler exploring is what you love to do. Like the artist, you're always creating things new. Let's see if I can go this way. Like the beekeeper observant in so many ways, you see the beauty in nature and you're not afraid. Like the doctor, you're caring and know what to do. Like the athlete, determination and strength is in you. So if you're unsure what to be and to do, just know that the answers are all within you. Follow your joy. What comes easy to you, just keep doing that and keep being you. That's it.
That's amazing. I have a question for you now, Leanne. My next question is,
wait till I send you a copy of I Already Am.
Oh.
It's like I'm just going to send you the ebook and you're going to see like the similarities are crazy.
Oh, I love that.
I know. It's a beautiful book. Beautiful, beautiful game changer for self-concept all over the world.
Right.
So I'm gonna get a copy for my son as well. Now I realize I need to, but just like I'm gonna with Elise's. But my question, this is more curious. Did you have that all memorized, or do you have like a cheat?
No, I do now. I've read it. I've done a few book readings. I've read at our Strathcona. I actually participated about a year ago. The book came out in 2019 in the fall, and since then I've just had the honor of being involved in some really cool book readings. I've done some school book readings. I've donated about 10 books to local schools in my community in Sherwood Park, as well as I donated over 20 books actually to Santa's Anonymous this year, just for kids that don't have books, and they said they were in need, so I chose to donate. And I had the pleasure of, actually the library asked if I'd participate and do some book readings and help children create their own storybooks. And so I did that for Family Literacy Day last year. And so I read it many times.
I'm just amazed, like you're just like turning it this way and reading it. I'm like, she must have a cheat sheet over here somewhere. That was amazing. Like, I mean, the reading was amazing, but I thought it was amazing that you just kind of looked at the page and just went. And that's impressive. Like most people reading would be like
beautiful message.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And like I said, I know my son, he's only 3.5, and I don't know how to, we only have 2 children and the oldest one's 3.5. So I don't know how to rate how far advanced they should be, but he seems like really advanced, and so I really think you'll get the message of that book.
Yeah,
I think start young, start now. This is that conception to 7 time.
Right? Yeah, I think it's a great message. Well, and oddly enough too, just to go on that, like the age, when people ask me what age the book is for, and of course I'll say like preschool to maybe 10-ish, whatever. But my friend, who's actually a high school teacher, she read this book to her high school students before they graduated, and she said they were so inspired. They were like hugging me after, because I think it just took that pressure off for them, because they're sitting in that place of like thinking, I have to go do this, or my parents want me to be this, and how do I choose? And it's like, what if you just had that message to know that you can always come back to yourself and just ask, what brings me joy? What, where can I follow in that path?
Yeah, yet another children's book for adults. That's what I call it. I'm like, it's a children's book for adults.
Right? Totally.
I love it. Such a powerful one.
Yeah.
And at least that message is powerful as well.
Absolutely.
So I mean, just as we start to wind down, because I want to appreciate everybody's time. I was going to ask you my main question. You probably heard me ask it because you said you've listened throughout the week. My time machine question. I may not even have to set it up because I've said it so many times now. But what would you tell a younger Leanne? I'll shorten the question.
I would probably tell. I'm just going to move myself over here. I'm shifting. I'm a shifter. I'm always moving my body. I'm like a little bit.
Me too. Elliot's like, stay still.
Right? I have a little bit of ADHD and all these things rolled into one. So how does it get any better? I would just tell the younger version of me to, again, just keep following with ease and joy for you, and don't sweat the small stuff so much. I was the kid that like worried about everything and always had so much care for other people. I was obviously an empath, and so it was always like I was worried about other people, or worried about how I should look to other people, and the judgment and stuff. And it's like, what if you could just let that go and just begin to actually choose what works for you? Like, what do you desire to choose for you that lights you up inside, that just creates so much ease and bliss.
Love it. So powerful. And so, Elise, did you want to chime in with your question? You have your.
Well, I feel like that whole children's book was one big garden of mind seeds. But I do always ask about a mind seed. So a mind seed is a seed of perspective or thought that, when planted in the mind, will assist anyone, really, because it's neutral, in growing a life that they love more and they love themselves in a little bit more as well. So do you have a mind seed?
I would say that my mind seed has been to what if every problem is actually a possibility in disguise?
I love it.
Yeah. So anything in my life that I've looked at, like from that space of heavy and judgment, and then it started to affect me. It started to affect me mentally, physically, emotionally, all the things. And when I could look at that and say, like, what is the possibility here? What's the gratitude here? Like, what is the gift in this? And then things just can shift and change.
I love it. Thank you. So that's beautiful. Yeah. So what if, say it again. What if
every problem, or every so-called problem, right, is a possibility in disguise?
Can you share that in the comments over on that Facebook page? That would be awesome. Yeah. That's the thing. I'm going to start asking, okay, anyone who's still listening, who's been on the show this week, if you could just pop your mind seed into the comments on the Blue Talks Flip Your Script Facebook group, that would be great. We could just seed the group with mind seeds.
Right? I'm typing it in right now as I talk.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Because I know Corey's on like YouTube and LinkedIn and all of these things.
Yes, I'll just write it in. What if every problem is a possibility in disguise? And once we begin to ask, what is the possibility in this? Then we can begin to see that golden nugget. Like, there is always a possibility. There's always more than one possibility. And then we can begin to perceive them, right? And receive it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Okay. Yay. I got my mind seed for the day. I'm going to use it like every day. I'll plant it with the other mind seeds and just water it and make sure it grows every day.
Yeah. I love it.
And so, Leanne, of course, the maybe more important question maybe the most important is how can people connect with you and learn more and reach out and get a copy of the book and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. On Facebook and Instagram, my handle for the book is at All the Things You Could Be. And I'm actually doing one Facebook and one Instagram giveaway. So I'm doing one softcover giveaway. And so people can actually enter there if they want as well for that while they check that out. And then I also have my regular Instagram handle, which is at Leanne Pastor _create. And I have a website that's in the works, so they can still check that out. Hopefully it'll be up and running soon. And that is www.leannepastor.com. And it's going to have art, and it's going to have a little bit of everything, and the book and all the things. So all the things that I could be.
Love it.
All the things that I could be.
Right. Oh, and the book also has a website. So if you go to www.allthethingsyoukouldbe.com, which I'll share in the link, all of the online purchase links like Amazon and Indigo, they're all on the website. So yeah, I'll put that link in below as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, Leanne, anything you wanted to leave us with? I did put your quote inside the group as well, and I put it on my main page. I'm going to start doing that for the next day. But anything else you wanted to share with us or leave us before we start winding things down?
I would also just, the only last piece I would share is, when in doubt, ask it out. I don't know, that just came to me. But ask and receive. We forget to, we've been taught so many times, actually, no, you shouldn't ask too many questions or stop asking. And for me, I noticed the moment that I started asking, okay, body, show me, like, what is this? And where can we go? And where is my joy? And universe, who can contribute to making this possible? Then things start showing up. That's when the possibilities start to come into your awareness, is when you ask. Because when you go to a conclusion like, my life sucks, or this isn't going anywhere, or I have no money, what would it take to create more money today? What would it take to have more joy today? What would it take for something magical to happen today? So just asking those questions. And really quickly on another side note, I'm really excited. I got to contribute to the upcoming bLU Talks book, and that'll be coming out soon. So you'll be able to see my chapter there, and with all these other amazing creators. I'm so excited. And then also I contributed to the life quote journal that Lisa was talking about. So I'm also writing for that journal as well. So I'm really excited to share that news as well.
Wow, you grow, girl.
And just since you set me up for that, because I was going to show it, this is like, just so you know, it's not fully done yet, but that's the cover of the next book.
Awesome.
So it's got the chakras there, and of course the back, it'll have the photos of everybody, and you can tell it's following with the kind of the theme of the books, like that bluer theme. I had quite a few people look at it, and they mostly voted that one. Here was the other option. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yeah, I like that one where the one you showed there, the first one, I think was that glow.
It's funny because I personally, I'll just behind the scenes, I liked the other one, and my girlfriend, my mother, and then about 15 people that are in my network that like mastermind and stuff I went to, all like the dark blue one better. So I was outvoted.
Well, here's the thing, is that it's not a chakra book. It represents the scope of a chakra. So I think that metaphorically, even the cover that was chosen is more representative of the content.
Yes, I agree.
So if you need a reason why, there you go.
But that was the big reveal. And Leanne's right. Right now where the book is at, and she knows this behind the scenes, we're at the stage where everybody's going through the edited version, just to make sure there's not last minute changes that need to be made. Then we go to the formatter, and right after that we go to pre-order stage. So probably the next 2 weeks, the book will be ready to be pre-ordered. And by the way, when it's ready to be pre-ordered, that pretty much means that, like, the book is done. You could literally print it out that day. So when I say pre-order, it's not like we're still getting the book done. We don't do a pre-order until the book is ready to be handed to somebody. So we're only a couple weeks away from book number 4. So
awesome.
Thanks for something.
Wow, Corey, you go. One day I too shall contribute.
Right.
You will.
Can I add one more really quick thing?
Yeah.
I just desire to share too that if people are looking for a way to just a quick contact now, they can feel free to message me, reach out to me on like direct message me through Facebook. I'm like, you know, usually checking that as well, or again, Instagram, like just reach out and
Like,
and
hey.
connect, right? Especially if they're looking to create some new possibilities. I love helping people create possibilities in every area of their life and just have fun. So yeah.
I feel like
such great
we're
energy.
definitely kindred spirits, because Yum Life is a brand that umbrellas all of what I do, and it's all about the possibilities are endless. It's all about creating endless possibilities. And I love when somebody like you shows up as a mirror, because we talk about this all the time, Corey, that every person or experience that shows up is really a reflection of the journey that we are on, whatever that looks like and whatever comes up. And so I want to thank you and let you know how much I appreciate you for showing up as a reflection, just kind of letting me know, chill out, girl, you're on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you both so much for having me. And yeah, and also what everything is like, I just want to add one more quick thing, but just on that
Just
possibility.
go on, add one more quick thing.
I can do it. I don't know. I just love that I think it's Marianne Williamson that said that quote, possibilities. Okay. I think it goes, possibilities exist no matter what age we are, is really what it says. And it just goes to show that, you know, you're never too young, you're never too old to ask, you know, what else is possible, and show me the infinite possibilities today. So I love that. It just goes based on your question about possibility, and it just made me think about that, because sometimes people can think that they're too young or too old or don't know enough, or, you know too much, or like whatever it is. And it's like, what if none of that matters? What if you just ask for the possibilities to show up, and you'll
And
start.
and the other key is that you don't have to know how.
Right. Yes.
Get rid of the how.
Yes.
So true. The how will figure itself out. Yeah, this is, like I say, Leanne, this has been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you. I thank you. I'm going to call it a to be continued. That's my common theme. At the same time, I think if you're cool with it, at least maybe we may as well just sign off all at the same time. Just like we've been doing this week. This is our new.
Yeah, let's be the trio that says the possibilities are endless when you believe they are.
Right.
So true. And so I thank you, everybody. Of course, I thank you, Leanne. Thanks, Elise, as always. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow, the last day of the week. You don't want to miss it. 12 Eastern, same place, same amount of guests tomorrow as well. 3 guests will join us. We won't disappoint. We promise not to. It's hard to make a promise like that, but that's my promise, is we're going to do our best not to disappoint. And we'll make sure to bring Leanne back in the future at some point as a to be continued.
Absolutely, so, Leanne, I'm going to, friend you.
Yay. Please do. I'll friend you back.
Okay.
Awesome.
We're all receiving. I don't know how you do it. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Day 5, the finale. It's Flip Your Script Friday.
Yes,
and Flip Your Script Fridays will be coming back. We had a little hiatus from the beginning of the year as Manatee Landing got set up and running. But Flip Your Script Fridays will be coming back from 1 to 1:30 after this event. So we'll keep you posted on that. So tomorrow will be like an official Flip Your Script Friday event day.
Amazing. Sounds good to me.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks, my friend.